Hello, and welcome back to more Battletech. Today, building infantry units. As you might be aware if you've been following our channel, we've been working our way through Battletech's combined arms rules, covering mechs and vehicles so far, among other things. Next, we're going to have a go at infantry. Only, I was made aware of a tiny problem.
Yes. You see, using infantry on the table is one thing. But unlike mechs and vehicles, there isn't sheets upon sheets of ready-to-use unit types available. And flavor-wise, it makes sense that every planet, city and garrison would outfit their own custom troops. No need to rely on the whims of a big manufacturer here, after all. So we decided to build them ourselves, which isn't all that simple.
I asked Green to quickly explain it to me, and after a while I stopped him and we decided that quickly just isn't feasible. We also don't want to bog down our next gameplay video with too much setup, so we made this into its own little thing. So far, Green has always set up the scenario, picked out the units for both of us and done it all off camera. This time, however, we're going to go through it, since preparing a game of Battletech is an adventure all of its own, just like playing it.
Sure is.
So, take it away.
Huh. This is different.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
To set up this game, we need to take care of three things. A proper scenario, including the fluff, the setting, but also the mission type, map and such. Forces. Which factions are going to take part in the battle and what are they going to field? Usually this involves picking out fitting mechs and vehicles, adjusted for time period and locality of the battle, of course. But in this case, we also need custom infantry. There will be a lot to talk about there, so let's just get started and take it from the top.
Scenario.
When setting up a game, we are not content to just smash armies together. That's what abstract games are for. We want to set up some sort of story. And in a universe as detailed as Battletech, that means finding out when and where to play. I've got a pretty good idea about the when. We already did some Succession War stuff, and we had a stab at the clan invasion. This time I want to go for the late Civil War era. And honestly, I'm doing that mainly for the exciting new toys I get during the setup, now that technology is taking a step forward. So, that leaves where. And I'm thinking we're going to go for the St. Ives Theatre in the Capellan Confederation.
Why there?
Because there's some interesting history there that you'll probably have a lot of fun explaining when we get to the actual video.
Ooh, fun! For the sake of this video though, can you give us the clip notes version?
The region has changed hands a few times. First belonging to the Capellans, then gaining independence, then being reconquered by the Capellans. Long story short, when that happened they asked Davian for help and Davian didn't come. Several years later, special circumstances apply. Davian rushes to help the local Free Capella movement during Operation Sovereign Justice, and
guerrilla warfare ensues?
Yes, and that's where infantry comes into it. In our case, we'll assume the insurgents and Capellans are fighting over a city. The Capellans desperately need infantry reinforcements to pacify the locals, and Davian needs to set up an ambush to stop them.
In that case, why not just have the battle within the city?
May I remind you that we don't own any city maps just yet? I'll get you with the next Kickstarter delivery. Plus, we would have to explain building rules as well.
Okay, right. Ambush outside town sounds great. But why are the maps arranged like this?
Because this will be a breakthrough mission. Davian defenders and a Capellan convoy trying to push through them. Oh, with the number of troops I have in mind for this, the map should actually be a lot bigger. But infantry is both cheap and slow enough as is, so I tried to factor that in.
Defenders, convoy. By now, we're basically already talking about forces.
As we just mentioned, we will have a convoy of infantry on the Capellan side and a bunch of Davian troops set up in the ambush. That gives us the broad strokes of what we need.
I assume we're not exclusively fielding infantry.
Oh no! And I already have some thoughts on the non-infantry units that I want to include. For the Davian defenders, I want a blackjack and an urban mech. One is a Davian staple and the other...
Oopsie.
Yes, that. Only 2 mechs, but also some heavyish tanks to add in some muscle. I'll pick out the exact models later. On to the Capellans. They need an escort for their infantry. Infantry can be squishy. I want a proper mech lance here. A catapult, another heavy for firepower, some mediums for varied tasks. Again, nothing set in stone just yet. Because first, I need the meat and potatoes. Our
custom infantry.
So, how is infantry put together? They have a movement type. Weapons, primary, secondary or support. The resulting stats. And also optional stuff. Specialization, possibly body armor, maybe field guns or artillery. Let's go through it as we build.
Movement type.
There are 5 main types available. Foot infantry, your standard grunts and boots. Motorized infantry, stuff you can stick a soldier on, like bikes, buggies or light transports. Mechanized infantry, stuff you can stick a soldier in. Also comes in 5 flavors. Starting with the exotic ones, VTOLs, meaning microcopters.
Very retro.
And UMUs, small underwater submersibles. Of course, there are also more grounded options. Tracked, wheeled, and hovered.
Is that a word?
All of these mean light armored transports, not tanks. Something like Humvees or AMRAPs. Bulletproof glass, armored plates, but still a normal vehicle. Not one of these. That covers mechanized infantry. The final options are jump infantry,
Jetpacks.
and beast-mounted infantry, which means cavalry riding everything from horses to dragons. Looking at you, Branth Regulars.
Alright. So, which do we pick?
Easiest to go by exclusion. Our map has no water, so no subs. The microcopters are actually invented by the Capellans, but super rare, so those are out as well. Then there's...
Dragons!
How about we go more traditional?
No.
We'll have foot grunts, motorized troops, and some form of mechanized infantry. Let's just build the first unit type. And we're building it for...
Davian.
For them, I want exclusively foot infantry. They are plentiful and cheap. They're good for hiding in woods and setting up ambushes. So, perfect for us. In the inner sphere, a platoon usually consists of 4 squads with 7 soldiers each. 28 in total.
Well, you got movement. What do we take for weapon type?
Let's go for 2 different designs. One variant with long-range capabilities and one type of close combat specialists.
How do we get that distinction?
You'll see. Let's just start building.
Unit Type 1. Close Combat Specialists.
We already picked our movement type. Foot. Which gives them a single point of movement. Next, we pick weaponry, starting with their primary armament. This is the weapon every basic trooper is expected to carry. And there are a few. Alright. How to pick one of those? Just go with the Davian standard assault rifle. The dreaded M42B rifle system. Math time! Damage 1.02 per trooper.
So that adds up to 28 damage and some extra for the 0.02. Yeah, that.
No. This is a primary weapon, and our soldiers are average grunts. Their mediocre accuracy means they can do 0.6 damage tops per person with their primary.
What? And that tasty extra damage is lost?
Not entirely. Their high-powered weapons give them an extra 1d6 damage against other infantry. As a bit of a sorry we nerfed your damage output gift basket. We want more damage though. And that's where the support weapons come in. Every squad can realistically take one of these along.
Realistically?
They can go for overkill and take 2, but lobbing around an extra one will slow them down, so they'd lose a point of movement.
Do we want that?
Nope. So we give each squad a grenade launcher, which deals 1.49 points of damage.
Aha! 0.6 you mean?
No. That's only for primary weapons. The weapon specialists know what they're doing and get the full damage potential.
So, thought experiment. If everyone took an assault rifle and we just made 2 of them specialists...
Yep. The marksman would get the full 1.02 mentioned earlier. Also, as a rifle as secondary weapon would not be a support weapon, we'd remove the movement debuff for carrying 2 per squad. That's only a support thing. But that's not what I want right now. We'll stick with the grenade launchers.
And now?
Just add it up. 1 guy with launcher per squad. And 6 troopers with the nerfed assault rifles. 4 squads in total. 20.36 potential damage on hit. With every soldier in the squad still alive, that is. Next, we do some basic math wizardry to find out how much damage a single trooper does, and you can find out how much they do in total whenever their number is reduced.
We don't track when the grenade launcher guy gets hit.
Are you crazy? There's enough bookkeeping as is. Go linear and round up to full numbers.
So, their battle value, now that they're finished?
Complicated. Factors in movement, movement potential, gunnery, their skill for anti-mech attacks. Don't ask, it's their melee against mechs and vehicles. Anyway, it involves looking at a whole lot of charts. Just believe me for now when I say the battle value is base 168 and we'll adjust for skill later.
Fair enough. Stormtroopers complete. Unit Type 2, Long Range Fire Support.
Backwards this time. Give them the fitting fire support weapon. I really like the Fire Drake Heavy Needler, but it's only got a range of 1.
Oh, yeah. How do you get the weapon range if damage is just thrown together? Doesn't sound like you fire them one at a time.
You don't. Usually you take the range of the primary weapon. Unless you take 2 support weapons per squad. Then you take that range.
So, how about these? You were giddy about that F earlier.
They don't do much damage. But we can push that up a little with the primary weapons. Also, keep in mind, mortars need 3 people per weapon. A squad only has 7 guys. If that had been a requirement of 4 people, we wouldn't have been able to double up.
That means only room for 1 primary weapon per squad?
Nope. The extra 2 just help carry the mortar around, set them up and all that. So they still get to use their primary weapons. Oh, speaking of carrying around, need to adjust that as well. 2 support weapons per squad, lose a point of movement, arrive at 0.
Oh, I'm going to get to explain minimum movement rules. Fun!
Primary weapons? Want it to be long range. M61 laser rifle. Only a range of 2. Not that it really matters apart from thematically. Could let them throw bricks for all the rules care. We still use the range of the support weapon.
Movement, range. I see we got the same short, medium, long range band we have on mechs and vehicles. Damage? Wonderful. What's that F about though?
Aha. F is for fire. Or rather, flame-based weaponry. It's an additional weapon effect. And again, since the twin support weapons take the lead here, it's applied to the whole platoon. That has 2 advantages. First off, it's scary. Literally anyone is terrified of Inferno ammunition or Inferno anything in universe, as it can fry you, either in your vehicle, cockpit, or simply pants. So it gives major morale penalties if morale rules are used.
Which they're not.
Meh. Anyway, and secondly, we can choose not to inflict damage, but heat, and thus stop mechs dead in their tracks. Maybe. We'll see how it plays out.
Oh, I'm getting to explain heat-based weapons. Fun!
And that's these guys done. Log them in.
Fire troopers complete. Yow. Unit Type 3, Capellan Convoy 1.
We've set up some nice variety for the Davian guerrilla forces. Let's go on to the Capellan convoy.
Yeah, about that. Had a peek at the map. That's pretty long distance. And, can we make them faster?
Oh, yeah, easy. We could stick them on troop transporters. Proper APCs.
Can they shoot from inside those?
No. I see your point.
Yeah, if they just want to move across, they probably wouldn't step outside to sniff the roses. Not the best showcase if they're just tasty mission objectives inside yet another vehicle.
Motorized infantry then. How do you feel about bikes?
Love 'em.
Movement of 3, as long as we resist putting 2 support weapons in per squad. Now, what primary weapons?
Choppers! No, wait. Big choppers.
We actually could do that. But how about something with range? Sniper rifles maybe?
That's rad, but okay.
Radium sniper rifles?
Yeah, I see what you did there. And I approve.
They're usually a Taurian thing. But just so happens that Horse Liao is allied to the Taurians in the Trinity Alliance at this time. So it is thematic. Also, let's add in some punch with the support weaponry. Give them SRM launchers on some of those bikes. Standard 2-shot. Yeah, that's some extra power right there.
2-shot. Do we need to worry about ammo here?
Nah, that's for battle armor. Just put it in there. Oh, we do need to factor in that E though. The SRM launcher is light enough to only need one person to handle, but it is still encumbering.
Can't swing that around like a shotgun,
Exactly. What that means is that you get the same penalty for shooting into your own hex that multi-crew weapons get.
We want these to stay at range anyways.
Yep. 3 movement, 3 range, 13 damage at full strength.
Done?
Done. Next.
Sniper bikers. Complete. Unit type 4. Capellan Convoy 2. Another motorized platoon, I guess?
Let's beef them up a bit and go mechanized. Thematically, these will do city fighting. So let's give them armored trucks to drive through the streets with. Also, we already established that there is fancy imported equipment in play here. So, hear me out. Mechanized troopers with hover handles. Mauser 1200 LLS as their primary weapons.
Okay.
And man-portable plasma guns mounted on top.
There we go.
All very new and highly experimental tech. But hey, maybe they have some friends in high places.
Or they're doing a field test.
Whichever. Plasma guns, also flame weapons. And the hover Vs get 5 points of movement, so we can easily sacrifice a point of movement to bump that up to 2 heavy weapons per squad. Gives the bikes a chance to keep up. Oh, every squad only gets 5 troopers though, since 2 people will be driving the hovercraft.
Which factors into the damage. There's hands to hold primary weapons. Do they have the same problems as proper hover vehicles?
Yeah. Worse. They don't sideslip, but stay out of woods. As a trade-off though, they are safer from small arms fire inside their vehicles, but anti-armor rounds do more damage to them. Shooting at infantry is a whole thing. You'll get to explain it in detail when we play.
Ooh, fun.
Next.
Hover plasma. Complete. Unit type 5. Capellan Convoy 3.
2 done. I'm getting into it.
Do we even need more?
Jump infantry!
Jump infantry?
Yeah, the background is that these guys are going to go pacify a city, right? Well, what if you want to clear a building out top to bottom instead of the other way around?
Hence jetpacks.
Oh yes. They have a movement of 1, but a jump of 3.
Basically like the bikes. Oh, is there a reason to ever not jump these?
Only very specific circumstances that I won't even go into. They are harder to hit by 1, just like a jumping mech, and I've decided they come mounted in helicopters.
Do they need to land to disembark?
They don't need to land to disembark.
Awesome. Weapons?
Looking at Liao, nothing really cool high damage. We'll give them the generic modern auto rifle. But with an added in heavy grenade launcher in the support slot, they'll pack enough of a punch.
Oh, and I see that E again. So once more, best to keep some distance.
Final note, jump platoons are a little smaller. Only 3 squads, 21 people. Which also keeps the battle value at a cheap 107.
Yeah, how do you get those numbers?
A moment.
Jump troopers, complete. Intermezzo, battle value calculation.
There we go. Now, you want to know how to get to the battle value.
Kinda.
Okay, let's go through it real quick. Every unit has a defensive and an offensive rating. Starting with defensive. It's pretty much just how much damage does it take to remove this unit. Multiply the amount of troops by a flat 1.5 and then by the unit's defensive factor.
A 1.5 and then... What is a defensive factor?
Check for the highest defensive target modifier. How hard are they to shoot at if they just floor it?
Ah, so 1 from 3 hexes moved and the extra +1 from having jumped. Does that count?
It does. Take the 2, check in this table.
Of course there is a table.
Battletech. This table really only gives you 1 point whatever you found for the modifier though. By the by, if they had some armor boosting up their HP per soldier, we'd need to factor that in as an additional multiplier. They don't though.
Who has?
Davian troopers from earlier, for example.
Okay. Defensive part? Offensive part?
Easier, but more work. We take the equipment. 18 rifles, 3 grenade launchers. Add them up. Multiply by 2.
For what reason?
Because they aren't mechanized, and thus can do some rather suicidally insane but effective stuff. i.e. anti-mech attacks. And that's just factoring that in.
Okay, so that comes up to 89.52. Alright.
And factor in their speed rating.
How?
You need another chart for that. This one. 3 movement gets a multiplier of 0.77. So we're back to 68.9304 for their offensive rating. Add that to the defensive rating and call it a day. Now, wasn't that nice?
I'll just let you deal with the battle values.
Back to the fun part.
Unit Type 6. Capellan Convoy 4. Wait, more units? Don't you think we're done here?
The stuff we made for the Capellans so far was all a bit fancy. We need some proper basic layout troopers.
I guess.
We'll go tracked vehicles this time. Big trucks. So back to 4 squads per platoon. Fits enough people for 7 active soldiers per squad. Keep in mind that there are also drivers, engineers and such that we don't keep track of. I wanted to go basic, so more of those generic auto rifles. And add in some fun with the support weapon. What's the scariest thing infantry can carry?
Was it that inferno-based fire weaponry?
No. Yes. Kinda. The other scariest one. Heavy sport lasers! Or, outside of weird high-tech stuff like particle cannons. Okay, the damage isn't that impressive. But the range is 5. 3 people to carry around. But we've got tracked vehicles to do that instead. No movement penalty. So... consult star chart, carry 1, cross-reference date of birth. 22 damage! 3 movement points! 160 battle value. And that's it.
Tracked support lasers. Complete. That's it?
Yes. Or actually, no!
Davian again. Unit Type 7. Federated Sun's secret weapon.
While looking over the lists for the convoy, I found something I wanted to include. And given that the Capellans will have a rather heavy escort lance, I think we can give the Federated Suns a bit more firepower.
So what now? Mounted troopers? Wheels for a change?
Nothing of the sort. Mechanized tracks. Nothing fancy there. Auto rifles will be enough, no support weapons needed.
I don't quite follow. What's their special secret?
If you look closely at their trucks, you'll spot a brilliant piece of engineering. The trailer hitch.
So what's fancy isn't the truck, it's what follows behind.
Precisely. Mechanized Infantry is able to utilize towed field guns or even artillery. You can select from most sizes and variants of autocannons as well as Gauss rifles for field guns and the usual suspects for artillery. In terms of personnel, they need as many men to operate as they weigh in tons. And if there aren't enough men left, the gun is disabled. I've gone with something traditionally Davian and handed them a shiny new pair of rotary autocannon 5s.
And how do they factor into the damage? Like support?
It's a little different. They can either move and just do standard infantry things, or they can keep still and decide to use their field guns. In this case, an impressive barrage of up to 12 AC-5 shells per turn. Downside is that they can only transport a single ton of ammunition for each of these. 20 shells per gun. So they'll run dry fairly quickly. On the upside, unlike their mech-mounted counterparts, these autocannons can't jump.
Too many grease monkeys around.
Anyhow, that's these done.
Towed field guns. Complete.
And that's your lot. And before anyone points it out, I've skipped one more means of modification whilst coming up with these. There is the option to give infantry platoons specializations. And it's easy. Just pick one or several and designate a troop to have them. The list is rather extensive. Combat engineers, sappers, medics, mountaineers, bridge builders, mine layers, mine sweepers, you name it, it probably exists. All of these give you further options. Engineers take 3 turns of not being shot at to build fortifications. Mountaineers have an easier time moving up terrain levels, mine layers lay mines, and so on and so forth. The downside is that it cuts into how many support weapons you can bring and into platoon size.
I think all of this is plenty of new things for one game as is. I mean, what do we have by now?
Let's line them up.
Final roll call.
So, Davian has 2 mechs, painted them, 2 heavy tanks, and foot infantry in 2 flavors. That being the stormtroopers, short range with grenade launchers, and the long range fire grunts with their inferno mortars.
As they're pretty cheap, I went with 4 platoons each. And double dose of the rotary AC-5 Togun troopers.
I'm so glad we have the memoir minis to prox with. Much better than bottle caps or pieces of paper. But on to Liao.
I built a big variety, so I went with 2 each.
Let's see if I can remember. 2 flavors of mechanized infantry. Hovercraft with plasma guns and tracked support laser vehicles. Then the motorized bike snipers. Don't have any tiny bikes, so I'm afraid these will have to do. And finally, jump troopers.
With their Karnov URs to transport them onto the field. Also, Marauder. M5. I'm sure they could have gotten one off of Merrick. And a catapult. It's a C5A. As the C5 is a bit expensive and the C6 isn't quite right looking at the time around.
I'll just trust you on that.
As for the medium mechs... Oh, you know what? We don't really own that many models for medium mechs yet. But we're post-clan invasion. So, clan light mechs? They're almost mediums. Alright, let me find a few good ones. Here we go. I gave them an Edda, H, or Puma as the Innosphere calls it, and a Mistlings, aka Koshi. That one even has a dedicated anti-infantry version, configuration G. So I took that gladly. Let's show what a specialized mech can do against infantry. All done.
Is that battle value a bit off?
Oh. Yeah. I haven't locked in the tanks yet. Let's make them Ontos to sink a few points. Fusion variant. And what if these are Davian veterans and we gave them a skill of 3-4 across the board? Probably should mention this. there is a final modifier here. As with any unit, you have to multiply the base battle value we showed you earlier with the number on this table, according to the gunnery/anti-mech attack skill of your troopers. This is just 1 for the standard 4-5. So those just used their base value as is. Just note that mechanized troops, including our towed field guns of course, lose their anti-mech attacks, which defaults that value to an 8, i.e. the last column of the table. So if we jiggle the skill values around by making someone a veteran or an untrained civilian, we can adjust their battle value quite a bit. What if these are Davian veterans and we gave them a skill of 3-4 across the board? Nope, not the entire board, backing it up a bit. The tanks are crewed by 3 Capella rebels with 5-6. Yeah, that'll do. Make the stormtroopers 3-3s. Perfect.
Except it wasn't perfect, was it?
Nope. To be fair, in my initial Excel sheet it looked like this. I just made a tiny mistake when setting up the automatic addition. The firegrounds weren't included.
So we played at a 900 points deficit for the Capellans?
Yep. Nothing to be done about that now.
For the viewers at home, what would have been your fix if you had caught that?
Just half the amount of firegrounds and stormtroopers Davian gets to field.
Well, the gameplay video is halfway done, and the main point always was to put some infantry in action anyways. We'll stick to it. But here's another tip for setting up your games for you. Check your math. Interlude done.
But points aside, what do you think now?
Nice selection. Maybe a bit much for one video.
It'll be fine. Think you have a good feel for all of these though, now that you know how they are put together?
Yeah? Yeah, I think I've got a good overview.
Nice.
Kinda wish we weren't recording this way after having played the game though.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll have been fine.
We'll see. Have seen. Will have seen?
Anyways, see you next time!
Are about to have seen in the future. Which is the present in regards to the past that we are filming.